There we go. Hey, how goes it, everybody? Ken Bozak here to talk about Bitcoin and Bitcoin accessories. Today I'm streaming with strangers. One of my bros, Calvin Waite from CoinBook.com. How goes it, bro?
Goes pretty well. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you coming on. Why don't you introduce yourself a little bit, let everybody know a little bit about yourself, how maybe you got into the space, and how that led you to what you're doing today in the industry with CoinBook.
Yeah, so I got Calvin Waite. I'm the CEO of CoinBook, and I got into Bitcoin back in 2012. I had a friend that introduced it to me, and he said he was mining Bitcoin on his laptop, and he'd made $400 by selling these Bitcoin online, and he said that he was selling for $5 each, and I was more like, what in the heck are you talking about, But he knew I was kind of a finance nerd, I had an interest in markets. I'd messed around with foreign exchange, trading and also stocks and then options, and I've just done a lot of trading and messing around. I was studying to get my finance degree, my undergrad, and so he hits me with all of this, and I'm looking at him like, okay, so slow down. You're telling me a Bitcoin exists and you're mining these. Okay, so that's really odd. But what really killed me was that he's like, Bitcoin's a digital currency, and I'm selling these for $5. And that sentence converted me to Bitcoin
Wow.
because in my brain, everything comes down to price. And I'm like, how on earth can something digital be worth more than $1? It doesn't like that doesn't compute in my brain because everything digital should be able to be copy and pasted. Like there's, you know, that's like the big issue.
Yeah, it's the
And he's like,
Byzantine general problem or whatever. You can just
yeah,
create copies and manipulate it, and But yeah, Bitcoin changed the game for everybody when you could send somebody a digital file and prove that they're the only ones that actually have ownership of that file, the private key.
absolutely. And so I was just like, this is unbelievable because I knew that if he was lying, the price wouldn't be $5. You know what I mean? Like it was it like confirmed everything by purely price.
Right, and
And
that's because that's the supply and demand, the market, made the price. It's not like a company, Bitcoin company is saying their Bitcoins are worth $5. The open market is saying supply and demand. I want a Bitcoin. Well, you want one? I want to sell for $5. I'm willing to pay $5. And it's like,
yeah.
that was mind blowing when I first kind of looked into it as well. I was just like, it was around $400 by the time I got into Bitcoin, but I was just sitting there like, this is like an a clip art file people are willing to spend hundreds of dollars on. And then I found out more about how blockchain actually solved a lot of problems where there was the copy paste issues for digital currencies. And a lot of companies still have that problem because they don't want to incorporate cryptocurrencies. They still use these old digital currencies where they have like insider developers just adding one and zeros to their own accounts. But
Yeah.
how did that lead you to CoinBook, and maybe dive into a little bit about what you're doing over there?
Okay. Yeah. So just learning about what Bitcoin was, I just got really interested, and we did a lot of messing around and trading and investing. And over the years, we did kind of what we could. We're all starving college students and doing our thing, trying to get through. But we eventually got to the point where, beginning of 2017, we did a deal with these. I don't know if you remember Cripsy.
Yeah. I have a friend that used to work at Cripsy, and a couple people
Oh,
that were unfortunately burnt by Cripsy. So yeah, I'm aware of the exchange. It was like a minor Mount Gox scenario for those that may
yes.
not know.
Yeah, so they were like the place to go trade altcoins. They're essentially the Cryptopia. Sadly, it's really, really similar now. But so Cripsy, we had traded on there for a while, and we made some money and things. But when they essentially, I don't know if I think the owner essentially was the guy that stole the money and took off to China and disappeared with everyone's money and that whole thing. So we had been through a couple of burns. We got burned on Mount Gox and then Cripsy. And we contacted the lawyers that were dealing with the settlement of Cripsy, and they had essentially liquidated everything that was liquid, and everything that wasn't, they were kind of looking for investors to do it. And me and my friend were like, we're going to go for it. And so we went ahead and like came up with the money somehow, and essentially bought the bulk of the coins that they couldn't dispose of.
Oh wow, that is freaking awesome.
Yeah, it was a life changing deal. And then so here we are, beginning of 2017, and Bitcoin starts rallying big time. And a lot of these coins that didn't have a market, all of a sudden, they had a market because people were like, "Wow, if Bitcoin can do this, well, then my old piece of crap coin
Right.
that my buddy like invented or something, maybe it'll be worth something too." And so all of a sudden, these coins started pumping big time. And me and my partner, I'd been in the market enough, and I'd seen these pump and dumps, and I've just kind of been in the industry for long enough that I was like, this is the best opportunity possible to convert all this to Bitcoin. And we converted all of that, just as much as we possibly could, to Bitcoin. And we got a decent amount.
That
Like,
was smart, man. Yeah, a lot of people that had those altcoins would have, probably gotten attached FOMO to the, like you said, oh, my altcoin might do better, but that was a good idea. Obviously, with hindsight in mind, but it was a good idea to reconsolidate back into Bitcoin, and
oh, yeah.
especially with all the forks that were coming about. I mean, if you were to reconsolidate those forks back into the Bitcoin after you got the forks, you ended up with more Bitcoin as well.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, we decided, well, we got to the point where we had a decent amount of money. And I told my buddy, so his name is Nate Davis, and me and him are partners in this exchange.
Oh, cool.
So
I'll have to get them on sometime.
yeah, yeah, if we can get him, that'd be good. He's going through some pretty serious health problems right now, but
Sorry to hear that. I just got out of the hospital myself.
oh, dude, what were you in there for?
I have an infection in my intestines, so it's pretty painful. It sucks. So just but it's cool though. It's antibiotics and all that.
Okay, I'll take it easy on you. You know, I'm just kidding.
So now that you have all this Bitcoin and stuff, I guess you assume you went ahead and decided to open your own exchange.
Yeah, so nearing like mid 2017, we started talking seriously about the problems that we were seeing. A lot of the big exchanges that were in the industry back then, they were all super excited about all of the institutional people that were coming in. And me and my buddy looked at this like, this is not good news for Bitcoin. The last thing we need, I mean, Bitcoin is an alternative to the banking system, right? And so, do we want the only path, the on ramps and off ramps that are essentially the two big ones, which was Coinbase and Gemini, and they were having customer service problems, and they were having, kind of issues back then.
Yeah, every time Bitcoin made a move, they would freeze or accidentally crash or go down or stop you from buying or selling.
And the insider trading when they were listing coins and
Oh
just
yeah, and their insider investigation on the insider trading that turned up nothing.
exactly. So we seriously looked at each other like, you know what? Nobody else is going to be the Bitcoin exchange that actually follows the philosophy of Bitcoin if we don't do it ourselves. And we seriously took it upon ourselves to create an exchange that tries to uphold the ideals of decentralization and ownership and teaching people about the true purpose of Bitcoin, which is that everyone needs to be their own bank. There's a bottleneck of being able to go from fiat to crypto, and that's what one of the reasons we joined this space. Like we're not listing a bunch of coin to coin transfers because that exists, but going from fiat to crypto and from crypto to fiat is a challenge. And the real issue is that the guys that are in there that are doing this, they've essentially, I kind of feel like they're kind of sold out the industry.
Mm.
And so we just kind of want to get in there and like give it back to the people. And we're not interested in allowing institutions to do like $1,000 day trades on Bitcoin on our exchange. Like that's not what we exist for. We exist to help people that have been around for a long time or people that are getting new to it or that are new to Bitcoin to kind of learn the ropes and figure it out and have a good experience, you know? So like that is exactly where this all came from. We were
So
like,
walk me through the user experience a little bit. Like what would I expect from CoinBook coming into it? Like you said, rather than the others that may be a little different.
yeah. So there's a page I always point people to on our site, and it's called Our Philosophy. And so if you go to coinbook.com and just scroll to the footer and hit Our Philosophy, it explains exactly what we exist for. So what we're trying to do, like number one, is that we're an exchange, not a bank. The reason why Bitcoin is valuable and that whole supply and demand issue that you're talking about can only exist if there's no fractional reserve banking on Bitcoin.
Right.
Well, banks are required to hold 9% or 10% of their of what they're what they're going to reloan out. So somebody deposits $100 into a bank, they can loan out $90 or whatever. They have to hang on to $10 to kind of secure that. And that's kind of how that fractional reserve banking works in banking. Well, in Bitcoin, there's no regulation. So that means these exchanges can essentially, they can fractionally reserve 100% of the coins you deposit into their exchange. If you leave your coins on the exchange, you're essentially giving them an infinite loan.
Yeah, I've always thought about, when everybody was, huffing and puffing about auditing the Federal Reserve, I was like, well, we might want to audit Coinbase. Like, who cares about the Fed? We're on to Bitcoin now. Like, stop worrying about fiat and look at these exchanges and, make sure that they actually have the coins that they say you have on the exchange. And right now, we've seen a lot of exchanges recently being shut down. Even decentralized exchanges, the SEC has gone after. So it is a big problem. It's something people have definitely been worried about. I'm just wondering, like, how are you, and when you look at this environment, and you're seeing some exchanges being shut down, and even the decentralized ones being like looked after. Is there anything that you may be concerned about, or is there anything that you have done to maybe get out of that scenario that these other exchanges have found themselves in?
Yeah, I mean, the way we structured our, excuse me, I'm sorry about my throat, but the way we structured our company is that we are not, well, for number one, the types of coins that we add to our site keep us away from the dealing in securities. So we had hired an SEC lawyer to come and talk to us and like kind of, we talked to them about our business plan, what we were planning on doing and everything. And they said that yes, we are dealing in Bitcoin. Like we're not brokering it, but we're dealing it because we are making the market. So we're placing the buy and the sell up for, whenever you buy and sell on CoinBook, you're buying and selling our coins. And so that's how it really works. So we're essentially a retail outfit.
Ah, interesting.
We're not facilitating trades between third parties. Well, you still need a broker dealer's license if you're exchanging securities. Well, we're not listing securities on our site. I know that
And just we don't know yet what is a security or not, so it's hard to say, right? Like all we know is Bitcoin and Ethereum kind of are not securities. Everything else is maybe, but we don't know. It's so hard to tell because they could change their mind tomorrow on us and say, hey, Bitcoin's a security, get over it.
Yeah, it's true. And those are things that that's part of our business risk.
Right, but that's like a 1% risk scenario in my opinion, but it's still like, possibility.
Yeah, but so the type of coins that we add, we can't add really any tokens. Like anything.
And nothing that ICO'd.
ICO'd, nothing. We can't do any of those. So we are only adding coins that were created essentially as currency. And these are old-fashioned coins. This is the Bitcoin and the Litecoin and the Digibyte and Feathercoin, like coins that were essentially created, and Dogecoin is one.
Yes.
We might add Dogecoin, but it has to be a coin that was not funding operations. They didn't have a pre-mine. They had it had to be on the level, and it was essentially a public coin. And that's exactly the type of coins that we add. And there are two advantages of that. Like number one, um, they're the least likely to be considered a security. So from a regulatory standpoint, it's the greenest area we can possibly be at. And number two, our site is essentially to help newbies and people that are learning about crypto to have a safe place to trade. Well, by adding coins that have already been through massive pump and dump cycles and through hype cycles and whatever, and they still have an active development team, and they're still being, you know, there's still a market for them, that kind of thing. It keeps our traders a little safer because there's not these, you know, we're not adding the newest ICO that came out and it goes up 5,000 times and then people just get killed on the other side when it crashes down to near zero again, you know? So we're kind of keeping people, you know, safe by having coins that have been around for a long time, and they just, as the dollar inflates, these coins will naturally increase in value.
Right. No, exactly. And I'm wondering, like, maybe what your thoughts are on like exchanges supporting forks of Bitcoin, and
Mm-hmm.
how that decision has maybe led to what CoinBook does when Bitcoin does fork.
Yeah, so if Bitcoin forks, we've essentially put it in our terms and conditions that we don't support them. If our premise on our site is that we want you to own your own coins. If you leave coins on our site, that's on you. You know what I mean?
But yeah, so you incentivize people to get them off the exchange.
Exactly. And we even have, I mean, this is mind blowing for a lot of people that understand how exchanges work, but we have like alerts. You have too much money on our exchange. You want to get this off into a hardware wallet.
Nice.
And pretty soon we're gonna add like a store that allows people to buy ledgers and treasures and things like that, so that they have, you know, a place where they can get them. But we're trying to be a place where if you have no idea what Bitcoin is, you can go, you can test it out, you can sign up. We'll give you a little free Bitcoin for signing up, and then, you know, you can kind of learn how it works, and then we teach you, hey, it's time to get that off the side, and that's kind of what we exist for.
I saw that you offer $5 for people to create an account on the exchange.
Yeah.
So that's a good amount to like learn how to like do a trade. Get your Bitcoin $5, trade it for some Ethereum, and then withdraw it, and then go through all the steps instead of having to put, people really, when they look at this as newbies, think they have to buy a whole Bitcoin, and they're gonna lose their money because they're their own bank and they're in charge of their own keys, and they don't even know what keys means. So I really think that's a great incentive. Have you like what are some of the biggest like frequently asked questions or like tech support things, like maybe people that are new to this space, we could try to solve one or two of those issues that they most commonly run into when using CoinBook.
Yeah. So I think the thing that we get a lot of is, why do we have to wait 3 business days before our money gets deposited? And we are actively working on that specific item. It's a
I
challenge.
would imagine that that would be because of the traditional legacy payment processing system. You have to wait to get the customer's money. It takes three
Yeah.
days for Visa or your bank to release the funds.
Yeah. But it's so aggravating because
That's a great lesson though for people, because that's like they learn the first real use case for Bitcoin right away.
yeah, exactly. Because Bitcoin, you transfer it immediately, and there's an unconfirmed transaction, but like 99.9% of the time, that's going through. You know what I mean? So Bitcoin is so fast, it's so easy to use, but the banking system is just so painful. Well, we're really talking in you know, in our discussions as a team and really working on figuring that part out. And I think we're going to probably come up with some kind of a medium solution where if you've done a certain number of deposits, that we'll increase the time. But the tough thing is that if we let them if we let them use that money immediately, we're essentially at risk for those few days if the funds don't settle, and it could be an innocent problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like non-sufficient funds or something.
Well, when people first got into well, not first got into Bitcoin, but like when I first got into Bitcoin and was looking into Coinbase, there was a lot of YouTubers showing people how to make an account on Coinbase, use a fake, not a fake one, but like a gift card or something, and do chargebacks on Coinbase and get your Bitcoin and keep your money. And I was just like, damn. But I was like, that's not Bitcoin's problem. That's the legacy problem. That's why I like Bitcoin. So it was like I never done anything like that because that's your reputation. You have to submit your KYC on Coinbook. So if I submitted my KYC on Coinbook and did a double spend or a chargeback of some sort, I would have burnt my reputation on the exchange, and that could travel, right? Like your reputation digitally now it's your fingerprint. It travels with you everywhere you go digitally. So I know that it sucks for a lot of people when they have to wait days, but it's nothing but the better reason for why Bitcoin needs to be more adopted and implemented into the legacy systems. Even if we see stable coins kind of adopted by Visa and stuff like that, I think might be the first baby step. So we could transfer to these whitelisted addresses more quickly and have things settle faster than waiting those 3 days. But I think
Yeah.
that's a little ways away. But I think the Gemini dollar may potentially be that first gateway. I think that might be the federal coin everybody's been talking about coming. I think, but I
Yeah.
don't know. What is your opinion on things like stable coins and maybe things like exchanges like Gemini having their own digital currencies or cryptocurrencies like Binance having their own coin as well?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know Binance has their own coin, and it essentially exists as it's like a perk type of thing that hey, we buy our coin back, but from the profits, and that naturally makes the coin worth more. And like I can see why, from an investor standpoint, you'd want that.
Yeah, they
They
made
really
me fall in love with burning coins.
so anyway, um, but all of the stable coin hype and everything, I know there's a reason for it. It's because you can't transfer dollars around, so you might as well, switch it over to cryptocurrency so that you can easily move it and things like that. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not super thrilled about it because it's just putting lipstick on a pig still. You know what I mean? The the problem that the world has is that the money supply of the dollar is completely in the hands of politicians and bankers that I don't know if they necessarily have our best interest in mind.
Yeah.
It's power and control that is really what's driving them. And I mean, it's pure self-interest. I mean, we're not learning anything new here. This is economics 101. Like these companies and these politicians, they serve themselves, and it's a natural thing. And economics is derived from that. And so a stable coin is a convenient way to use the same dollar, but is the dollar really the solution? You know, I don't think we'll ever get away from the dollar, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, every government prints its own money, and they do what they will, but I think everybody should have Plan B in place.
Yep.
I'm not telling people, hey, Bitcoin's going to be the complete future, and we don't need dollars anymore, so invest your entire life's worth and your house and everything into Bitcoin. I don't say that, but I do say everyone should have $1,000 in Bitcoin. They should.
You know what? I read an article that kind of inspired me to start investing. Period. Like this is before I even looked at Bitcoin. Like 2015 to the beginning of 2016, I was starting to feel like an adult, and I was looking into investing. And I read an article that said it was like, I think it said like 90% or something like that. I think it was a crazy big number, but it was around like 90% of Americans don't even have $1,000 in a savings account for an emergency. And I
Yeah.
was just like, holy shit, that's me. Like, I don't have 1,000. If I needed $1,000 today, I don't got that shit on the back burners. I like to spend money as I go. I'm the American paycheck to paycheck, dream. That's how we've been programmed. So that article actually inspired me to start saving fiat. And then I had a bunch of fiat and I looked at it sitting in my bank and then I was like, it's not doing anything. I'm actually, every time I look at the money and I go to the store, I'm getting less shit every month. I'm losing value, but I'm making money. This doesn't make sense. So then I started to look into stocks and precious metals, and then I got into cryptocurrencies.
Good for you, man. Yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating world. Like, if you put your money in the bank and you're either making a fraction of a percent of interest or no interest at all, it slowly loses its value. I really, really love how Andreas Antonopoulos talks about that,
Yeah.
that over time, where does that value go? Where does the money go? Like you have $1,000 in your bank account, it's not earning interest, but 10 years later, you can't buy as much stuff with that same $1,000. Like what happened? Where did that go? It's
Well,
like,
what happened was they printed so many more of those dollars that the circulating supply has been flooded. So now it makes those things worth a lot less because there's a lot more of them and there's no demand. There's just more supply. And that's where the funding comes for war. The money doesn't stay in the country when they print all these ones and zeros and start to reissue supply of fiat. It doesn't stay in the country. It goes outside of the country. And that's where a lot of people are getting real pissed off about, we send a lot of money out, but we don't put a lot of money in. And if, for example, you could look at Detroit, it's like our own personal Afghanistan war zone in America, but we don't help throw money there. We just like to throw money outward.
yeah,
And it's insane what we're doing and what a lot of people are supporting when it comes to the Federal Reserve. Like
yeah,
it's just super conditioned, right? Like the programming has been sanken in so deeply, people are comfortable with it, and it's almost like they're numb to the interest and deflation of value, right? Like they know that my great grandmom could have got bread for a nickel, and it's going to cost me $5 plus tax, and tax used to be 5%, but now it's 7%. But that's fine. That's just life, Minimum wage has gone up $1 in the past 10 years. It balances out.
well, the Federal Reserve, they only have two levers. They only have two things they can do. They can inflate the money supply, so they can print dollars, or especially for like governments in general, not necessarily them, but the only other way they can get money to pay for um, political operations is by taxes. So the only two levers out there for the governments to pay for their irresponsible bloated spending is to either print more money, so they have money to use, which devalues the dollar and everybody's savings slowly goes down, or earns less against the interest rates that they're working on. So it hurts everybody, even if you're keeping up with inflation, right? But and then the other side of that is taxes. And this is what kills me. So this is my political rant.
Oh, go
Is
for
that
it.
every single politician has some great idea. Like, why in the world would you vote for me? Oh, it's because I've got plan X, Y, and Z that don't exist. Well, guess what? Those items cost money, and nobody's going to go in and say, well, we're gonna decrease spending on schools, and we're gonna do this and that to, like, save money. We're gonna kill all these programs that already exist. No, they don't want that political backlash. They just want to give people more stuff. Well, where does the money come from that? Well, it comes from taxing or inflating the dollar.
Right. Like when we bailed out the banks, everybody was so excited. They were like, "Oh, cool, we saved it. The banks are fine." I'm like, when like you lose money at like when somebody steals your bank account info and they steal your money, that insurance is you, the taxpayer. You paid back yourself. The bank used the money they made off your money to pay you back the money they lost you.
So it's just like, where do I see my kids? What do I think my kids are going to deal with in 20 years or whatever? They're going to be struggling because taxes will be higher. I can guarantee that.
Unfortunately.
And money is going to be tighter. I mean, when two, it used to be that one worker could pay for a household. Well, then two people started working, and they spent the one and saved the other. Well, now both people work and they spend the entire thing, and it's not going to get any easier. And it's this kind of fractional reserve and the taxing increases and things, and really there's an economic incentive to keep people in on food stamps and other things. They get a lot of benefit for that, and it's all driven by economics. So yeah, I don't know. I hate to get too boring, but there's a lot of reason why we need cryptocurrency.
So, as a noob, if I were to come to you, like you're a CEO of an exchange of sorts, and what if I was like one of your high school buddies? I'm like, dude, I never invested before. I don't really have $1,000 to throw away. How do I get involved in Bitcoin? What's like a good entry point for me, or how do I d- get into the space and start to accumulate my way to one Bitcoin?
Yeah. So what I tell people is that you kind of have to take baby steps. Um, you've got to break the ice, though. You have to own a little bit of Bitcoin, and sooner than later. And so, if we can give you $5 of Bitcoin just for verifying your account, hey, you've got $5 worth, and that breaks the stigma of I need to own a full Bitcoin to get started. You don't. You can own $5, and then slowly add to that. And as you know, I know we've been kind of in a rough bear market, but
Well, that's the best time to dollar cost average in.
that's when you want to buy. Exactly. But as prices move and you see that little $5 be worth 501 and 502, it gives you a little excitement. You're like, hey, I have something that's working for me rather than me working for it. And then that's how you kind of slowly get involved in it. But a lot of my friends, it's kind of funny because I don't think people really understand what it is. I certainly didn't. When I first got into it back in 2012, I looked at it as purely a financial move. I thought, wow, every stock under the sun gets deflated because the CEO just invents new shares and gives them to employees and benefit, like they're always deflating the money supply of stocks and other things. This is finally something that cannot be the money supply is exactly what it is. I was like, this is the best investment ever because you can't mess with it.
A lot of people would argue, coming in from the legacy perspective, that forking a coin would almost be the same as a stock split of a scenario or creating more money out of thin air. But that's like devil advocacy. I had to say something. I feel like somebody would have said something watching it.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, it's true. I mean that can happen, and that will dilute the value. But I honestly think that a lot of the forks, they just won't last. That's my opinion. I know it might be brutal for the people that that love all the other forked coins, but it's hard to sell something that's worth $10,000 splitting in half and both of them being worth $10,000. The economics don't support that. The reason why it was worth 10,000 in the first place is because of supply. And so if you fork it, something's going to have to give, and one's going to consume the other, or one's going to be diminished and the other's going to be diminished a lot.
Yeah.
Net result of the same thing. And then it comes back to the supply and demand of everyone's opinion of that new asset. So, but I still think there's a future for even forked coins. Nothing can disappear until people stop mining it forever.
Yeah, and that like the Pandora box thing, there is always going to always be there for somebody to do something with. I don't ever see even the worst shitcoin going to zero because there will always be at least two people willing to mine it and trade it for dumb shit back and forth.
Yeah. And I think it's a beautiful thing. And it's really, so I got my master's degree in finance, and I got it back when I actually got it, in like 2013, 14, in that kind of area.
So that was like 2 years after you've already been into Bitcoin then.
Yeah. But we had studied, like, my master's degree was essentially learning about the 2008 housing bubble and all of the credit default swaps and how to create those, and learning about how these really big banks like the Goldman Sachs of the world and all of those banks really make their money, and how they create these derivatives. Oh my goodness. I felt I needed a bath after class just learning about like
It's dirty, man. It really is.
Happens. Like, it is amazing. Like, I couldn't stomach it. I couldn't go into that industry and just jump fully in.
So it is different how, like, banks make money and they manipulate people and stuff, but exchanges are not any different almost, right? I mean, I worry a little bit about where exchanges make money. Are they, saying that they have my Bitcoin, but they really don't because they're lending it out or they're using it to trade on their own behalf, and they have enough on, hand to liquidate 10% if they need to or for whatever. But I'm just curious, like, how does Coinbook make money? Where does the profit for the company actually come from? And, I know that we get $5 for signing up and submitting the KYC, but what happens with our information? Is it anything that's, shared with third party, or like, how is it secured because of the Equifax leaks? A lot of people are concerned about submitting KYC because if somebody that worked at the company wanted to, they could take that information and, log into my Coinbase or log into my bank account, X, Y, and Z. So just a little bit of a peace of mind, like, how does Coinbook secure our personal information, and how do you make money, on the back end? Because you do incentivize me to get my Bitcoin off your exchange immediately.
Yeah. So what's funny is, okay, so let me answer your first question first, and that is what happens to your personal information. So Coinbook only keeps what we need. So we're kind of a funny site. Like we send we send T-shirts and random things in the mail sometimes, So we keep a hold of your name and your address so that we can send that. But the information that you send to set up an account, so that'd be social security number, driver's license, and all of that, we have an API that passes through that data directly to our bank. So we actually don't even we don't keep that information. If somebody had a support ticket and they're like, hey, something happened, can you give me my social security number, something weird, like none of our employees can even get it. Like it's not on any of our databases. We don't store it. We have like an encrypted UID that we use.
So it's the same security as opening a new bank account and me worrying about Wells Fargo securing my data. You're using a bank to secure the data.
So the only reason we even ask for that is because you're essentially opening a checking account at our bank account.
Because of the fiat gateway, right?
Yes, it's a fiat gateway, and they need to do their KYC. It's like if you went into Wells Fargo, they will ask you, what's your social? Let me see your driver's license, and they will set up a bank account for you. Well, we're doing the exact same thing, except for Coinbook really has nothing to do with it. It goes directly to our bank that we use. And that bank, they keep that information to comply with all the banking laws. We're simply an exchange. So our relationship with them is that, let's say Coinbook disappeared, like something happened to us, that bank account was set up in your name. It still exists. It's FDIC insured and everything else. Like that money's yours. Like we can't take your money out until we have a trade. And when a trade happens, we submit through the API, hey, money has been exchanged. And then they have a settlement process where they will move that money into our account because you've actually, we've bought your coins. So that money goes, it moves around through the API that way.
So that's kind of how like some of the extra liquidity could come from your own account. If I wanted to sell Bitcoin and nobody was there to buy it, you would buy my Bitcoin. That's where I would get the fiat from.
So all fiat will come from us. So if you sell your Bitcoin on ours, we're giving you cash, and vice versa. So what we have, we've structured our trading to where we have an inventory of Bitcoin and we have an inventory of cash. And because we are an institution, we can balance that out through other companies to like make sure that our reserves are in good shape so that we can continue to serve our customers. But that's essentially how our trades happen. And our prices will fluctuate along with the market. So we follow CoinMarketCap pretty close on the coins that we trade.
Are you listed on there was somebody asked a question just now and was asking where in your he says, yeah, 213 exchanges on CoinMarketCap. When Coinbook on CoinMarketCap?
Boy, we can't wait for that. I actually contacted them and they said that that they need $1 million of daily, which I doubt 213 are doing that.
Yeah, no fucking way.
There is no way.
Maybe they did at one point for 1 week or something, and then that's how they got listed. But there's no way.
I know.
There's some high ass standards.
We definitely I'm gonna reach back out to them and see if we can
Well,
get at.
especially because you're specifically designed for smaller trades. You don't want, whales taking advantage of your exchange. So
Yeah.
like that's sucks. The fuck coin. Come on, coin market cap.
Well, though this is the cool thing is we're growing like crazy. Like it is so cool the response that we've had. Just our philosophy and kind of what we stand for, and just the way we do business. I mean, me and my partner self-funded this entire exchange. Can I just tell you what a benefit it is that there are not a line of investors and money-hungry, selfish people that have their own like money agenda going on? Like we actually have a chance to do it the right way. No other exchange out there can,
Right, because
because
they
they've
all have
probably
puppet
formed the
masters.
funding, they've gone through all this and that, and they've raised all this money. But guess what? Investors are like, I want a heck of a return on my investment. Like if we fractionally reserved coins and if we did like we could do whatever we wanted against our principles. But you know what? Like we know that we might make less money by doing things the right way, but I think that it's going to resonate with people that want a good place to trade, and that's where I think we're going to actually reach people on a different level than these other exchanges that just exist to you're another number in the system. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Could you see yourself maybe designing a decentralized version of CoinBook? I wouldn't know exactly how that would work, but I mean, like, I would love to see a lot of these exchanges be developing a decentralized version of themselves. If for any reason something were to happen where a government comes in and crosses your arms behind your back, you could just release that open source software into the wild, and your exchange now exists like the Bitcoin of exchanges.
Yeah. So we have essentially decentralized as much as we can, but because we deal with fiat, we have to comply with the U.S. banking
If you
laws.
replace fiat with stablecoin, would that be able to be done in a decentralized manner?
It could,
If
yes.
if the
But
DAO has a pool of the stablecoin to pull from for buy and sells with a specific fee involved, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm just like I
no,
think that it
that's a
could
good
work
point.
because I really want to see, decentralization because I worry about a bank or an exchange, a bigger exchange, seeing what you're doing, and they could lobby in a politician to shut you down. And now what the fuck, And that's just we're running into these legacy problems while trying to be disruptive. And I'm trying to figure out like how do we have a nuke in our back pocket because Bitcoin
Yeah,
is that nuke in a sense, but we are limited to these on ramps, and
yeah,
I do get concerned because I saw Goldman Sachs, buy out Poloniex. They submitted mandatory KYC, and now if you want as a U.S. resident, you can't even lend your Bitcoin on Poloniex, and that was the biggest perk of me using an exchange was I'm risking my assets, but I'm also earning 2% every day on my Bitcoin loan. And
yeah.
now a bank bought it out, and obviously a bank from the U.S. doesn't want U.S. citizens to be able to make more interest on Bitcoin loans than having their fiat sit in their bank accounts.
Man, you're good. These are good questions. We're serving a different market. That's what it really comes down to. Our The bottleneck and the problem with crypto that in our opinion is that link between fiat and crypto. A link between fiat and stablecoin might be I mean, maybe there's a market for that, but anything coin to coin, I believe that that should be open source and it should be decentralized. We are trying to do the fiat to crypto the right way, and that has to exist. I mean, I can't take my money to the bank and say I want this converted to stablecoin right now.
Right. Well,
The
we've
day
seen
that happens,
banks. We've
the
seen
day
banks
that
say that
happens,
you can't deposit your money to our bank account because we don't support Bitcoin exchanges. We don't allow it. So we've had
yeah.
what Citibank disallow people to buy and sell Bitcoin from Coinbase. So now if you have a Citibank account, you can't even do that with Coinbase anymore. So the
Yeah.
banks themselves are shutting down the on ramps, and I think maybe like I'm really interested in the gift carding, the gift card scenarios and stuff like that to get around that.
Yeah. I think companies need to go down that route. That's not why we exist, but I absolutely agree.
How was it getting a bank account for CoinBook? You know,
Oh,
like
could
what
I
bank
tell you how
is it
hard that
possible
was?
to find out like what bank actually said thumbs up? Because it's really hard when people are trying to start a cryptocurrency company in the United States and actually get a bank account.
Oh man. So CoinBook has actually existed since I told you we started this the middle to end of 2017. We've been around for a year and a half. We went live on the 10-year anniversary of the Bitcoin white paper. So October 31st. It took us more than a year just to find the banking partner. And like these banks, holy crap. Like they're like, yeah, well, we need to have a minimum balance of $1 million in the account. We're going to charge you $10,000 monthly fee, and we're talking. We're like, okay, well, you realize that we're a startup, right? Like, we'd love to just, you know, give you just crap loads of money. And the thing is I think larger companies that do a big fundraise and have all these investors, it's probably an easier road for them. They can probably pull more weight.
Yeah.
We're like, we we purposefully didn't raise money because we know how it needs to be done. And what's our decentralized plan? It's your money's in your checking account, and we're teaching you to keep your coins off the exchange. Like that's our decentralized plan. You know what I mean? Like we exist to help you get into and out of crypto and fiat. We're an exchange. We're not a bank. We don't necessarily want to be a target for hackers. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
You don't want to be a sitting
we hold
honeypot.
a ton of money. I mean, we're like super secure, and like everything's like 99% of our coins are on cold wallets. Like we kind of went overboard on that because
There's really no overboard in blockchain, man. It really isn't. We've seen so much go down in the past couple years, but that's led to the evolution of where we're at. We've seen companies learn from speculation and learn firsthand, but either way, they've contributed to the process moving forward. Either was CoinCheck being hacked for 300 and something $1 million worth in them, or exchanges losing KYC information or whatever. But then we have all these things that have happened to get us to where we're at today. And I love when people expect, when we see people like, oh, why isn't Bitcoin accepted at Walmart yet if it's so great? I'm like, well, you know how long it took like companies to adopt the internet, right? Chill. It's not ready yet. They're going to have more bugs than they're going to have solutions if they adopt this technology right now. But I
yeah,
think a lot of these companies are looking at the smart contracts and looking at being able to create these tokenized assets for, utility tokens of sorts for like coupons. And now those utility tokens actually just eliminate their company's other middleman, not just the bank middleman, but the advertising and rewardings or loyalty points, middlemen. They can replace that whole part of their company that uses marketing, and they could do it with now this smart contract stuff. I think that's
yeah,
where we're going to see a lot of these mainstream companies come in. It's not going to be so much accepting Bitcoin right away, but it's adopting the technology in the background. What is a blockchain? What is a smart contract? And then eventually move into the actual currencies themselves.
yeah. And honestly, the funny thing is I know Satoshi Nakamoto came out with the idea we need a peer-to-peer cash system and all that. And a lot of people say, you know what? In order for this to be a real currency, it has to be in use. Well, the funny thing is markets will tell you exactly what they think it should be used for, right? Like people's behavior will tell you what a coin should be used for. Well, guess what Bitcoin's used for? It's used for a savings account against irresponsible governments. It's used as a backup plan for when dollar goes hyperinflated, when the world currency stops being the dollar. I mean, there's just like the market doesn't I mean, I think the Lightning Network is really cool, and I think it'll really make some amazing strides. Um, but I would use dollars before Bitcoin every day because I'm saving my Bitcoin.
That's all I spend is
I
Bitcoin,
want,
man.
like I want as much Bitcoin as I possibly can.
I'm
Like,
with you, but
oh,
I do spend Bitcoin every day because that's all I have. So if I don't spend Bitcoin, I don't eat, I don't pay my rent, I
oh
don't have
wow, okay.
lights.
I
I
didn't know
am
that.
a
Wow,
100% all in, and that's all I earn, that's all I spend.
that is
So
so.
yeah,
Wow.
there's a but I save a lot of money using crypto because it not only is volatile, so I may earn more money by holding last week's pay, but I
Mhm.
also find ways to save 10 to 30% on my transactions. So if I'm paying for Starbucks, I save like 10%. If I'm spending money on Amazon, I save 30%. But that's because I'm using cryptocurrencies. So not only am I making money holding a better money, I'm saving money using it as a better money.
Yeah, and I think that probably people will be able to use it as the technology increases. But man, I just look at, like, if I have a stack of dollars and I've got my Bitcoin, my Trezor or whatever,
Oh, it's
like
yeah,
that
that's such a
Bitcoin is
hassle.
worth, that Bitcoin is worth so much more to me. Like I look down the line and I say I see 5 years from now that Bitcoin's going to be worth more than any other investment I could possibly imagine. And it's hard to let go of, and that's why I don't know. I
It's
mean,
such a new way to look at money, right? Like no, you've never had the option ever in your life to say if I hold this dollar, I'll be able to get more stuff with it over time because there's going to be less of it in supply, so the demand will increase, making it worth more. No, your whole mentality on money was I got to get rid of this dollar for something else before I can get less of it, for the same dollar. And now we see, like, you can look back at the 10,000 Bitcoin that were spent on the first pizza in New York City at Papa John's and do the math. And, like people like, oh, I don't want to be the next pizza guy.
I know. But, I think the world's going to change. The last thing I want to see, and I know we're kind of going long, so sorry for blabbing on, but the last thing I would love to see is a tax-free Bitcoin. I just feel like if governments are in place to create economic and social security for their citizens or whatever, why would you try to kill something that is creating strides in the economy?
Like,
And I think
absolutely.
that's something that I just feel like the way people have to deal with the taxing on Bitcoin and stuff like that makes it really painful to use. Also,
Well, I
if
believe
it solves
Vegas is
that,
tax exempt. Bitcoin transactions are tax exempt in Las Vegas. And a lot of other states are trying to fight for that as well because they don't want to disincentivize the companies from innovating in their cities and
absolutely.
bringing those brain trusts to their states, and that's the incentivization in Silicon Valley. If other people were to follow, other states and cities were to follow, but right now we as a whole, our country does tax the hell out of crypto companies, and it disincentivized them to build here, making them want to leave, taking the brain trust with them. And I don't know where the US could be, but I don't know if this is going to be the epicenter or whatever of like crypto. I'm looking more at Canada or other countries like even Venezuela has been super impressive with their retail and merchant adoption of Dash. I think there are over like 3 to 4 thousand businesses now in Venezuela that accept Dash. I'm sure that's more than accept Visa and American Express in Venezuela. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to those days. Like I'm with you. I'm being patient because, like, the internet wasn't adopted overnight, and neither will this. But I just think that people that have a little bit of foresight and realize what it is, oh man, it's just gonna pay off.
Unfortunately,
Just
those people
piggyback on
need to
this.
have the hardships to have that foresight because it's hard to really learn from speculation in this manner. When you see
Mm.
somebody have a foreclosure on their house and blah, 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 you don't really learn much from that because you don't know exactly what a foreclosure really means. You just know somebody else fucked up. But then you realize, oh, the bank fucked them over. That's what really went down. And you really start to be incentivized to be your own bank. And then you learn, well, if I'm going to be my own bank, why am I going to work for somebody else? I might as well be my own boss, which I think crypto really incentivizes entrepreneurship in this space. I mean, ergo Coinbook.
Yeah, we just feel like there's a hole that needs to be filled, and we jumped in there. And I kind of have a weird sense of humor. If you're on the site for more than like if you get verified, you'll start to see my strange comments that I put in all the we've added achievements to the site. So you like get these little comments here and there for doing trades and whatever. It's
Oh,
it's
that's cool.
kind of fun. And part of that is that, you know what, we're not we're not a bank, you know what I mean? Like we're a place to exchange, and we try to keep it really kind of fun, very simple, very intuitive. So we're just doing our parts to kind of add to the economy. And we like, I'm telling you, I'm looking at the numbers from December to January, and we quadrupled our signups. um, we almost tripled our trade volume. Like
Wow.
it's amazing. Like I think the people are starting to realize
So what's
what
the
we're.
roadmap like for you for 2019? Just to kind of wrap things up for the podcast here, let people know sort of what to expect throughout the year of 2019 at CoinBook. You know, bells, whistles, features, partnerships. I mean, anything that you can actually talk about, because I know a lot of this stuff in this space right now, a lot of companies can't really say, but it's not like you have your own token that you can pump. So, I mean, anything that you could let us know would
Exactly.
be awesome.
Well, we are building, building, building. Like I have a list like of bullet points. I've got probably 15 items that we're going to add, and a lot of it is to kind of make things smooth from a user perspective. I think we're going to figure out something kind of creative to help people deposit and trade. What we might do is like give people the option, hey, we can do an instant deposit, sure, but if you try to withdraw your coins, we're just going to hang on to them until the funds flow. You know what I mean? Like we'll figure out some creative ways to like make sure that people have a good experience. We After everything's working kind of flawlessly and we're able to do that, the next thing that we'd really like to do is move on to small business, because we don't want like large institutions, but there are a lot of small crypto companies that have really no good place to like to trade and get to pay their bills in fiat and this and that. So I think we'll do an arm there, but I think we'll limit it so that they're not using it, out of
Right.
control. And we
Yeah,
have
because
some.
it is. You're right. It's hard for a small company to liquidate their tokens to pay their developers or electric bills.
Yeah, I mean it's, and maybe we'll work on services like that. Like we will be a payment thing. Like you can give us your Bitcoin and we will pay your utilities or something. You know what I mean? Like there's just like the sky's the limit.
Right.
The cool things that we can do are way out there, but we are protecting our philosophy and we're protecting our brand more than anything. Like we're not going to do anything that is like, huh? I thought this was Coinbook. You know what I mean? And we're just going to try to do everything the right way. Yeah, we got lots of plans. I mean, this year we're gonna add our store will work, be fully functional, so people can buy like Trezors and hardware wallets, and we've got a lot to build out on our education portion and things like that. So we're
Full
gonna get.
time full time geek wants to know if you have a Steam account. Are you on the Steam at blockchain? Do you blog?
I don't have a Steam account. Well, actually, I do, but I just don't use it.
Oh,
I
dude, you got to start blogging for CoinBook there so people can get updated on the blog. I mean, that's going to be your user base, right? People that are using crypto instead of posting on Facebook, you could post on Steam, and that's your demo 101.
I know. I actually had a guy talk to me, a couple of guys that were like, "When are you gonna add Steam to Coinbook?"
Yeah, please. I
And
don't. There's that's one of the most used token I have. I just use Steam, Bitcoin, maybe Ethereum, Litecoin, and Dash probably like the most.
really, we've been trying to fill out the market. We've been trying to feel like, is there really demand? Is there, can we pull it off? That kind of thing.
Well,
We're
you have people
still
that make like $300 a blog, and they would, I'm sure, would like to liquidate that to pay for stuff.
pay for electricity and expenses.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's been one that I've been really wrestling with.
And you
Like,
could put paid ads on Steam too to advertise QuickBook as a promoted post. So Facebook and Twitter won't let you have a paid post because they don't let cryptocurrency companies advertise on social media. You could take some of that market share and put it into Steam and actually make a Steam post that's an ad that every Steamian will see.
Ken, I need you, man.
I'm an advisor to like three companies already, bro. I'm spread so thin. But
Yeah.
Full Time Geek said he'd be able to help you out. So reach out to Full Time Geek.
Cool, man. This is awesome.
Hey
Yeah, reach out
guys,
to me. I'm not hard to find. Go to coinbit.com, every support ticket. I've been kind of manning the help desk ticket because I've got my developers working on building full time. So I'm like seriously just knee deep in like helping people out and responding. And I have a weird sense of humor. There was a guy that was like, delete my account. And I was like, damnatio memore, your existence has been wiped from the earth. You know, it was just I'm just messing with people. Like I can't help myself. You
Right,
know?
but I mean that's the benefit of being your own boss at a company that's, so awesome. I mean, that's, you know what, again, I want to say everybody already knows, and I say this a lot when I see it, you're keeping crypto weird. And that is what I can
Yes,
respect.
we are.
You know what I mean? Like no suits, no ties. It's all about having fun right now because we're in the middle of a fucking renaissance. This is a revolution. I like how people see it as a war, fine, but I'm seeing it more as a renaissance. We are revolting in a positive partying manner. I don't know if you've ever been to a blockchain conference, but there's not much blood. It's mostly beer and talking about how awesome crypto is. It's a renaissance, guys. So I mean, keep it weird over at coinbook.com, man, for real, for real. And guys, if you're watching this, head on over to coinbook.com, submit your KYC, get verified, start using the account. You get free $5 just for signing up. And let me know in the comments what your experience was, what you think about the platform, and we can start a conversation about coinbook.com in the comments. Hey, thanks a lot for coming on, bro. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, totally nice to meet you. It was really fun.
All right, guys, don't forget, pound the thumbs up button, click subscribe, flick the alert bell, and have a day.